With renewed interest in reserve list investing, players are wondering which cards are the best deal. Eventually, you're going to find the bottom, and that's when people will start buying and taking advantage. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thanks a lot for hanging out with me on the channel today. With the recent uptick in sales for reserve list cards, I've noticed now more sales happening across a broader range of cards that have previously been left alone. Cards from Arabian Nights on the reserve list have seen higher sales volumes than I've seen in over a year and a half. We have new cards on the list today I want to share with you guys because some of these prices are so low that they have nowhere to go but up, and other cards I think are actually going to fall a little bit further. But all these cards are starting to be noticed by other people out there who do invest in reserve list cards. If these are cards you already own, congratulations, way to go. If they're cards you don't own and maybe you've thought about getting one or two of them for your collection, this might be the opportunity you've been looking for as a new reserve list investor in Magic cards, or as a player who's already been around the block a few times and you know my channel well. These are cards I want to share with you. They've been at previous highs. They're now near previous all-time lows. I want to make sure everyone's aware of these cards because other people out there are starting to notice. Maybe you're one of the people out there who's actually buying these. You could be the one causing all this. Congratulations, you got a great deal. I know, some of these cards are epic. Seeing some of these Arabian Nights cards on the list is blowing my mind, as well as some cards from Legends. This is a great day to stick around and see what's happening, guys. Let's get to it. The first card we're talking about today is Keljoran Outpost from Alliances. Now, as a mana-based card, you guys know I'm very fond of any card in the mana base. But when I look at this card and look at the value, it's been as high as $45 US for a near mint copy. And of course, all the other copies are various less points depending on what you're paying and how good the condition is. But I look at this card, cards like Castle Eldarin or whatever from like Throne of Eldraine, those are other things that put creatures into play. But they cost 4 mana plus tapping the land. This doesn't. This only costs you 2 mana plus the land. All the lands you saw from Throne of Eldraine are basically takes on other cards from Alliances that already existed. All of them are. They're just worse copies. So why not put Castle Eldarin in there as well as the Outpost? Give yourself a couple of ways of making little tiny beastie creatures. There's a lot of advantages to owning at least one near mint copy of this card, and people are forgetting how cheap some of these cards have gone. The high was $45. The low around 2021 was around $10 or $11, and this thing is still falling in price. If you just needed a near mint copy, sure, you'll pay top dollar, you might as well get a good one. But if you want to get a heavily played, medium played, just something to put into a deck, you can save yourself a lot of money. You can get these for as little as $10 right now on TCG Player. And by the way, guys, just a reminder, it does help out the channel. If you use my TCG affiliate link found inside the description of all my videos, just click on that link. It takes you to TCG Player, and then you're shopping under the Moxman banner, and every penny counts. It helps the channel out, and it's free to do, so thank you, guys. What a deal, though. $10 a card. That stuff is totally crazy. Now, our next card is Goblin Wizards from the Dark. The Goblin Wizard here was over $250 to $300 at one point. And look at it now. How the mighty goblins have fallen. It's not coming back around. These are all reserve list cards, and it fits well into a goblin deck. When people take a closer look and realize how good this card is, 2 red, 2 generic. Take a goblin from your hand and put it directly into play. Think about some of the huge beastie goblins out there nowadays, and you realize how well this card fits in. Target goblin gains protection from white is just a side bonus because white used to really, beat on red, and red beat on white. There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on back in the day, guys. But this card has that nice little side bonus, and he's just a goblin. He's just a dude hanging out. He's a goblin wizard. He's learning magic, learning tricks, and you can get that guy now for $70, $80 on TCG Player for light played copies. A near mint on the market is going to be around 114 to 120, and overseas we're talking €96 and 25 cents. Look at the value of getting a card like this and understand the potential later on. These lower prices now are not going to stay here forever, and as players take interest in some of these older cards, Again, if it's a card you've been looking at in the past, if it's a card you desire, this might be the lowest point it's been at in a very long time, and you probably should take advantage of it while you still can. Is it still going to fall? Some people asked me. I actually think it will fall a little bit further. I can't really see it though going below the $95 US mark, but it may fall a bit more. Just keep an eye on it, and you can determine for yourselves when the right time to buy is going to be. Now our next card is going to be Eureka. I was surprised by the amount of sales that have been happening with this card. I'm tracking to see if it's actually going to make the top 10 this week because I was surprised, okay? One person bought 4 all at the same time. That was given to me by a local LGS retailer I deal with, that 4 copies got bought out. I found that very interesting, that this Eureka card, which is amazing, from Legends, got that kind of attention brought to it. Now the average price for this card, again, has been falling. It doesn't show up well on the grid here, guys, but at one point this card was around the average of $1,000, okay? $1,200. It's been falling ever since. You can see here the market value is $765.48 US. That's still around $1,000 Canadian. And it's around €569 to get that card into your house. For those who have never played with Eureka, and of course I own a copy myself, it's amazing. 2 green, 2 generic. Okay, and both players take turns, I can't speak properly. Take turns putting permanents into play. So I put a land, I put a 10/10 Eldrazi, I put a 5/5 Angel, and you go back and forth until you don't want to do it anymore. Then you stop when both players have had their fill. If one player says they're done, then the other person can just start laying stuff out. I used to use this all the time after I'd sabotage somebody's hand, make them discard and get rid of everything, and then I would go ahead, get a fresh hand, and then cast Eureka, and I would play all kinds of crazy planeswalkers and creatures. Kitchen table magic is fun. But this card is on track to make the top 10. We're going to find out what happens this weekend. You're going to have to check that one out when it comes out. All right, guys? I mean, it's amazing. It's a higher-end card, too. Now, our next card. Again, another higher-end card. All Hallows Eve from Legends. Again, this card could make the top 10 this week. We'll see how things track by the end of the week. The average price, though, is $582, okay? The market price is $774, though. There's quite a disparity there. You better look around and look at conditions because these prices don't match up, and I have seen some variations with things getting mixed up with Italian copies, so keep it in mind. Now, this one here is one of my favorite cards from back in the day. The artwork totally reminds you of Halloween. It gets you into the spirit. You say, yep, I remember this well, had a good time, love playing with it. Put 2 counters on this card. Remove a counter during your upkeep. When you remove the last counter from All Hallows Eve, all players take all creatures from all graveyards and put them into play. Guys, it is such a good time, okay? It is so much fun when this stuff all goes crazy like this. But what we used to do is blow up people's graveyards with Tormund Crypt so nobody else got an advantage of doing it. We had a lot of fun doing that back in the day. I recommend if you're going to play that route and get this card, that might be something you want to look into. Get yourself a couple of sets of Tormund's Crypt and just have at it, you know? An amazing card at such an amazing price right now. Great time to be buying. And again, it could make the top 10. I can't wait to see how this weekend pans out. Okay, our next card is the Quorum Trench Gnomes. This card, I remember it reaching just above that $200 level. And then everything settled down, and it's been falling again ever since. It started just going down. But now, it's nearing its all-time lows, okay? You're only a few bucks off now of being at the all-time low spot where it used to be. This is something very interesting for people to notice. This card does have, and has been played by me and some of my friends, and I've seen it actually in a couple of commander decks now. The Gnomes are only a 1/1 for 4. 1 red, 3 generic, but tap, right? Target planes produces now colorless mana instead of white. Until the end of game, use counters to mark these cards. It isn't like some of the other cards that when the card's removed, you remove the counters. It's not like a Cyclopean Tomb and stuff. It doesn't work that way. This thing just keeps them there. So we used to find ways of messing up people's lands, turning their lands into planes, and then changing them over. There was a lot of shenanigans you can do with this card. One of the few gnomes in the game, I might add, and a lot of fun to have a good time with when you feel like it. It's a little bit of a janky card, but when people don't expect this card out there and you put it in a red deck, just plop it into a commander deck, a cube, have some fun. I love this card, okay? I can see why people don't really care that much about the value and the price right now, but considering where it's been and where it's going, it's a pretty good time to buy this card. And if you wait a little bit longer, maybe in there 20, 30 days, maybe as high as 60 days, you might see it drop a little bit further. I can't see it going sub 40 though, although you never know. You never know. The world of collectibles like this is kind of crazy. In the Eye of Chaos. This one is not dropping like others, but it's dropped far enough that it's definitely got to be mentioned. Now, as a Legends card that counters all kinds of craziness, when you look in the Eye of Chaos, it's an enchant world, global effect, right? 1 blue, 2 other enchantment. All instants and interrupts are countered unless their caster pays an additional X, where X is the case. So you got to pay double. Let me put it that way. You got to pay double to get past the craziness that is in the Eye of Chaos. And a lot of people can't pay the double, can they? And when used in a deck and constructed around not using instant spells, you can mess people up. Now, interrupts aren't really in the game anymore, so this really just generally hits all the instants in the game. But when you don't play with them and you build around that, I've seen this card been used very effectively. I've used it myself, stopping all those little nasty spells from coming out and wrecking your day. This is the card to have, and the price has never been better, right? This is a really good time. This is like 2021 pricing, and it's still like 15% off that, so it's a very good deal to think about. Now, our next card is going to be, that's right, I know you guessed it, Transmute Artifact. This one I have not mentioned that much, and I'm only mentioning it now because the price right now is going down ever so slightly. It's just starting to dip. So I want to make people aware of it so they can track it themselves and keep an eye out. If it keeps falling, it'll definitely be on the list again. But this is a card to watch because it has so many uses inside the game. It is played in Commander. It's a great card to have around. And when you look closer at the card, it's a 2 casting cost, right? Searching for an artifact, putting it into play, and then you have to sacrifice one of the artifacts you already have in play is a very small price to get some big beastie artifact creature back onto the battlefield. That is just one of those things you're like, yeah, it's a game-ending card. When used in the right combination, it's another way to search that library and mess people up. Guys, this price right now may still seem kind of high. Okay, I get that. But I'm telling you, keep an eye on this card. It has been over the 400 plus mark. It's just starting to fall now. I'll be tracking it. I hope you guys will too, and see if this is a card you want. This might be a nice tracking fall for the next couple of months, 6 months, a year. We don't know until the market rebounds how far it'll go down. But people have invested a lot of money into some of these cards, and they need some liquidity. So they're starting to sell some copies off. Not a lot of sales on this yet, but it's one of those cards I'm keeping my eye on, okay? Now our next card, Suchi. Antiquities, Brothers War, it's all coming up. It's coming around. It's something to keep in mind. This card went up to around the $170 mark. We're all the way down now. The market price is $129.23, and it's still falling. The average price is $96. It's €92 though, so hopefully you guys can just buy something over here in Canada and US and ship it over with minimal cost, I hope. Here in Canada, I've seen copies for $115, $120 for moderately played. This card is amazing. When you look at this thing from back in the day, it was very powerful back in the day, even with the ability to give us mana burn. That's when you couldn't use your mana and you got burned because you didn't use it. But nowadays, it doesn't matter. It's a 4/4 for 4, and it gives you 4 colorless mana when it dies. There are reasons to have this thing. There are reasons to make sure you keep it around and reasons to let it die. An amazing card to be added to a collection at a bargain right now. A bargain. And will it keep falling? People ask me. Yes, it will. This one's not done yet. It's going to go further down the list. The market price and average price aren't already adding up nicely. Keep an eye on this. You might be surprised. Aim for those light played near mint copies though. Heavily played if you just need something to play with. If you just want something in a deck, it really doesn't matter. But if you're an investor, collector, you think you might want to get some value out of it later, you got to pay attention to that. Keep your eye on the ball and buy a better copy. It'll cost you a few bucks more, but if you're holding it for years and years, it's not going to matter if you paid $5 more or $5 less. Now our next card is the Silex. These kind of cards don't normally make my list. But with the Brothers War coming out, the story with Karn and stuff, talking about the Silex and all these kinds of things, I wonder if we'll see some kind of new Silex style card inside of Dominaria United, okay? And I noticed an uptick in sales, which makes me have to mention this card. It's not that I think this card is going to be super valuable. All it does is remove Antiquities cards from the Antiquities expansion. It's kind of a single one-off destruction spell from back in the day. But this card has history, and it has the story now to go with it. It will be one of those cards people kind of over. But the sales right now tell me it's flatlined out. It really can't go too much lower. and it has been higher. If there was another buyout on this card, we know guys like the Taco King have a whole bunch of copies, but he's buying them on the secondary market, and he's buying them from other players, so he's not actually inputting data directly into things like TCG Player and feeding the market noise to let us know how many copies are really moving at what prices. So this kind of card, I think, will stay around this level, which is good for anyone wanting to buy it. I don't see it jumping up right now, and if it's a card you wanted to get a copy of, this might be the time to grab that copy. Now, the last card on the list is Arabian Nights Singing Tree. This thing is totally kind of bottomed out. The market price is €269.98, definitely nowhere near the average. And you can see overseas, we're looking at €289.98. I've seen this card as cheap in Canada as $200 in the last month. It's all over the place. But this is one of those cards. Number one, I need it for my Arabian Nights collection. But number two, it's not the worst card out there. Yes, it's forecasting cost for a 0/3. Tap to reduce an attacking creature's power to 0. That's kind of nice. It doesn't matter if it has counters or not. It's just going to 0. I love that ability. And it's a singing tree. He's singing to you like right out of like a Looney Tunes adventure. And you just can't do anything but listen to the guy sing. That's just how beautiful it is. This is an amazing card to see on the list. Again, tracking to possibly make the top 10 this weekend. And that would just be so amazing to see that kind of stuff happen. Guys, there is a lot of movement right now in a lot of these cards. And I know some of the bigger channels just aren't paying attention to it right now. I've got to bring you the information like I do every week on these topics because you want to be aware of what's going on and how it affects, number one, the cards you want to buy, cards you already own, or cards you're even thinking about getting for the future. This is a great time to be around and get these bargain basement prices. They're awesome. So thanks a lot for hanging out with me today. Thanks for chilling with me on the channel. Hope you had a good time. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for our regular card watch. Thanks for tuning in. What an amazing day to be in Magic. Thanks again to all my wonderful patrons on the channel. Thanks again for believing in me, guys, and supporting everything I'm doing here. Patrons make the world go round. Thanks again. It's empty. I ran out of coffee while filming. Now I got to fix myself up. Can you imagine if Eureka makes the top 10? It's going to blow my mind. Having a higher end card like that actually make the top 10? Whew. Time will tell. Who knows? I have to add up everything and see what gets knocked off and doesn't. We still have a couple of days to go, but pretty awesome. So guys, thanks for hanging out with me. Gonna go get a new coffee. Gonna refill myself up because you know what? It's always a good time to be in Magic, and it's even better now that you guys hung out with me today. Thanks again. Looking forward to seeing those comments in the comment section. Have an awesome day, everyone.